The limited streaming series Adolescence debuted last month on Netflix and has been a huge success. Here's an article about it from the AV Club by Drew Gillis. Headline: Adolescence brought Netflix more viewers in 2 weeks than basically anything has. Quoting from the article, in the viewership figures released by the streamer yesterday, Adolescence brought in 42 million viewers and 161 million hours viewed in its second week, bringing its total viewership to 66.3 million viewers in 2 weeks. While Netflix's numbers are always worthy of a little skepticism, it even admits here that the series has dwarfed its other, and in some cases presumably much more expensive, series. The success of Adolescence, and specifically the scale of its success, comes as a surprise to a lot of us. A very, very welcome surprise for me, but a surprise nonetheless, because this series doesn't really bear the hallmarks of what we have come to expect from a massive hit in today's media landscape, whether we're talking about streaming or conventional television or movies. It lacks a lot of the features that certainly studios seem to demand for projects that they hope will be massive hits. It doesn't have any major stars. It has a lot of familiar faces and literally nothing but incredible actors in the thing, but no major box office bankable stars are in it. It's only 4 episodes, so you can't even attribute all of those millions and millions of hours watched to the fact that, well, there's just a lot of it and people who liked it had to watch a lot of it. It's only 4 hours, 4 one-hour episodes. And it is definitely not a focus grouped, audience tested, designed to be a 4-quadrant hit kind of project. It's very serious. It's very dramatic. It doesn't really have any comic relief. There are a couple of moments of levity or lightheartedness scattered throughout it, but not very many at all. And it deals with a really, really serious, sensitive subject in a really realistic and sensitive way. So this is not the kind of project, this is the kind of project that you would expect to get critical acclaim and to get people championing it and saying, no, this is really great, you should watch it. But it's not necessarily the kind of project that you would expect to become this kind of a popular hit. So what is happening here? And what can Netflix and other streaming services, and indeed other production companies and studios who are the people who decide which projects get money, which projects get greenlit, and which don't. What lessons can all of these gatekeepers in the entertainment industry learn from the success of Adolescence? Well, I think it really boils down to something very simple. People who watched Adolescence were compelled by it, thought it was great, were drawn in, were moved, and they told other people about it, and other people watched it, and they told people about it, and those people watched it, and everybody who has watched it, which is a lot of people, more or less agrees that it's really, really, really good. And I am one of those people. This is not going to be a review of Adolescence, but I will just state for the record, I think it is maybe the best streaming series I've ever seen, and it is certainly one of the best things I have seen produced for television in many, many, many years. It is a remarkable accomplishment artistically, and in terms of its technical accomplishment and its creative accomplishment. The acting, as I said, is amazing. The writing is incredible. It was co-created and co-written by Stephen Graham, who also plays one of the leading roles in the project. And he is an actor who you've probably seen in stuff, right? He's been around for a long time. He's popped up in stuff here and there, a lot of TV, a lot of smaller roles in movies. And if you don't know his name, but you see his face, you'll probably be like, oh, that guy, I know that guy. He's not only one of the stars, but he's the co-creator and the co-writer of every episode. And this shows him, in case anybody didn't realize it already, this shows him to be a extremely noteworthy talent as a performer and as a writer. He's just great. And especially in the fourth episode, the last episode, he will absolutely tear your heart out. And technically, it is amazing as well. Every one of the 4 episodes is presented as a single uncut shot. One take, one shot. And it's not a static camera. The camera moves. It's very fluid. We go from static shots to moving shots. There are shots that transition from characters in a car shot through the front windshield and then seamlessly transitioning from that locked down camera through the windshield to a handheld shot where we follow them into different locations. It is just the camera work. The camera operators are incredible artists in this. And when you think about how much it had to be rehearsed, how carefully it had to be blocked, how everybody had to hit their mark at just the right point, and also be giving performances. It's not just, oh, everybody was in the right place at the right time and they remembered their lines. These people are acting and giving amazing performances. It's just a great show. And the fact that it is such a great show overcomes the lack of traditional star power, overcomes the fact that it is not a $200 million special effects bonanza. It's not based on a pre-established IP. It's not a sequel to something. It's not a reboot of something. It's not based on a best-selling series of books. It's not a superhero thing. It's not a cop show or a lawyer show or a medical show. It's not a reality show. It's none of the things that have traditionally been the big bankable hit things in recent years. It's very much its own thing. It is definitely a crime story. It is a story of a 13-year-old boy who is accused of committing a horrible, horrible act of violence, but it's not presented as a police procedural. It's not presented as a courtroom show. It's presented as a human drama told from many different points of views. Every episode is from a slightly different perspective. Every episode, even though stylistically it's always the same one shot, one take all the way through, every episode has a slightly different tone, a slightly different perspective, gives us a different part of the story. It's really smartly written in really subtle ways. Things are set up and paid off throughout different episodes. I cannot recommend it highly enough. And to me, the lesson is, if something this good is made and is allowed to find an audience, it will find an audience. And in cases like this, it's potentially going to become a huge hit. Now, do I think that every single show like Adolescence is going to be this much of a success? No, of course not. But what it proves is, if you are Netflix, if you are a major movie studio or TV network or some other streaming service, if you give audiences a good enough product, a good enough show, and you allow them to find it, they will find it and they will share it. And it will probably be a success for you. Now, it might not all be this big of a success, but here's the thing. If you don't spend $200 million on it in the first place, it doesn't always have to be this big of a success in order to be a success and to be worth the investment of money and time that it takes to make it. It doesn't need to be a massive tentpole blockbuster. It just needs to be good enough and be given a chance to find an audience so that it can find an audience and it can generate some buzz and become a success. And I know the old cliche, and it's a cliche because it's usually true, is that Hollywood always takes the wrong lesson from successes. So I'm sure there are people in the movie and TV business who are reacting to the success of Adolescence and saying things like, oh, I guess this is what people just want now. They want artistically shot stories about teenagers stabbing each other. Like, this must be what people want. Let's make more of that. And that's not the lesson. The lesson is people thought this was good. People were engaged with this. People were intrigued by this. People were invested in these characters. This is a good show about characters, about drama. It has something to say, something socially relevant to say about important topics, brings in issues of sexism and misogyny, brings in issues of how men are taught as boys to treat women, brings in issues regarding bullying and how teenagers treat each other and bully each other and the consequences of that, brings in issues of parenting, issues of how the legal system interacts with young people. There are so many very serious, very socially relevant things that are going on in this story. But the bottom line is it's just a gripping, compelling human drama that is well written, exquisitely directed and shot, magnificently acted, and people who watched it really liked it. So the lesson is really as simple as just make better things. Like all you Hollywood executives, not just Hollywood, all throughout the entertainment industry, all you executives and studio bosses who are worried about, oh, the movie industry is dying, all streaming services, it's so hard for a streaming service to be profitable and all of these things. How are we going to make money? How are we going to survive? Make better stuff. It doesn't have to be superheroes. It doesn't have to be adaptations of popular books. It doesn't have to be sequels and reboots, and it doesn't all have to be packed with movie stars. You can make new stars with stuff like this. You just need to do better stuff. Give artists the chance to make their projects. Give actors a chance to shine. Give writers a chance to tell their stories. Give directors a chance to tell their stories. Let the filmmakers make films the way they think they should be made. And not all of them will be hits. Not all of them will be good, certainly. But you'll have a lot more success stories like this, and it'll cost you, studio bosses, a lot less up front to get it. Just make movies and TV shows, limited series, whatever it may be, that the audience will like, that the audience will think is good. And yes, I acknowledge that is much easier said than done. But before you can do it, you need to realize that that's what you should be trying to do.